know everyone's got a busy day ahead of them, I'm sure. It's that time of year. So thank you for making time to join us. I am Sophia Lenars-Coy. I'm the executive director of the food group. We're so grateful to chat today just about some of the things that are happening at the food group and some of the trends we're seeing in the community. So thank you, thank you. We will have a few minutes for questions at the end. So any questions that you have, you can hold those to the end, and we'll try to get time to chat about those as well. So good morning. Many of you are really familiar with the food group, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about what we do. The truth is, many of you are instrumental in kind of allowing us to do the work that we do. But for some of you who might be a little newer to our work, we are here with the mission of fighting hunger and nourishing the community. And we do that work in three main ways. So we have our hunger relief program, where we support a network of food shelves and meal programs with a focus on culturally connected and local foods. We have our affordable grocery programs, Fare for All in Twin Cities Mobile Market, knowing that there are lots of neighborhoods in the Twin Cities where folks do not have adequate access to good quality, affordable groceries. And we also have our Big River Farms program, making sure we can support emerging farmers to start sustainable farm businesses. So as you can see, we work across the food system with the vision of creating a more just and equitable food system that works for everyone in our community. I wanted to share a little bit with all of you about some of the current trends that we're seeing in terms of the need. And, you know, it's been a really interesting past 4 years for those of you who have kind of followed and supported the food group's work. There's been so many changes and so many different things happening in the community related to food need. And what we're seeing right now is really continued dramatically high need in the community, especially when it comes to our hunger relief partners. And I know we definitely have some partners on the call this morning. So, you know, local food shops are feeling these trends incredibly acutely. But you can see last year was a record year with food shelf visits of over 5.5 million. And
think you got muted.
sorry, I just got muted by the host, but I'm unmuted now, so we're good. So 5.5 million was kind of record levels. And what we are seeing now is that we're on pace for over 7 million visits to food shelves. And so again, just seeing kind of record visits, which is one indicator of how difficult things are for folks in our community right now accessing food. And we're often asked this question of why? How did we get here? How are these numbers continuing to increase at these levels? And I think there's a lot of different reasons, but I just wanted to kind of ground us in a couple of those main drivers that we're seeing at the food group. And the first is inflation. And sometimes I feel like a broken record these last couple of years on inflation, but it really still is an important thing that we are tracking and feeling and realizing. So this year we had almost 4% inflation, but that's on top of prior years, which were much higher. And so I know we all grocery shop, and you know there are those items where sometimes there's sticker shock. I know my boys happen to love raspberries, and there are times where a pint of raspberries is about $5.99, and I feel like in my house is eaten in about 30 seconds. And so we all are feeling the impacts of inflation, but then I think it's really important to remember that for folks on a really limited income, food is a much bigger slice of the household budget. And so when inflation hits on those items, for low-income households, it really has a dramatic impact. It also has a dramatic impact on food shelves and meal programs who have sizable food budgets that they're needing to use each month to fill shelves. The other factor that really is driving this rise in need that we're seeing right now is the ending of some COVID era programs. So during the height of the pandemic, while need really did go up, the other thing that happened is there were federal support programs that simultaneously were created to really form a more robust safety net. So many, if not all of those programs, in fact, have now sunset. And so we are again seeing need shoot up as these safety net programs have expired. So things like stimulus payments, eviction moratorium, um, emergency SNAP benefits, even the federal income tax credit, all of those things really kind of patchworked together to make it so that some folks were able to weather 2020 and 2021 in a little bit more supported way than perhaps they're feeling now in 22 and 23. And so we're seeing all of this kind of at the food group in terms of a lot of need from our food shelf partners, right? Full trucks, big orders, food shelf partners really needing to think as creatively as possible to kind of meet the demand that they're seeing at that local level. We're also seeing it in our affordable grocery programs, people needing to look for kind of innovative, affordable grocery options in ways that they maybe haven't before. And we're also seeing it just in terms of additional folks wanting to come into farming, understanding that we need a different kind of food system that maybe is going to work better for a lot of folks. And so I'm going to turn it over to David Peoples, who is our director of programs at the food group. And he's going to talk a little bit more about the specific ways that we are using our program areas to kind of meet the trends and needs that we're seeing in the community. So David, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Sophia. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I want to start off first with our hunger relief community response. We really try to meet immediate need and invest in long-term solutions. So I'm going to start off with the quote you see on our screen here. Food is my source of comfort, and if it's really good, it makes me glad to be alive. That's from one of our program participants. And, I want to share a couple of key pieces of data in our hunger relief work. This year, we shared 6,452,163 meals with our community this year. We focus on support for communities of color that have had less access to nutritious foods due to systemic barriers. We increased our culture-connected food distribution by 132% from last year. We partner with local farmers to glean 40,873 pounds of produce from farms and farmers markets that would have otherwise gone to waste. Nearly 13,000 more pounds than last year we gleaned. And it was all made possible by added volunteer support. So thank you to our volunteers. On the next slide, we're going to talk about our community response of our affordable grocery program. With our affordable grocery program this year, we have really been emphasizing growing our Twin City Mobile Market program. We have one of 2 new buses already on the road. We have 2 new TCMM sites. In the past month, TCMM has seen more than 44,000 customers. I want to share a story with you also from one of our site partners. I think the most impactful thing is the accessibility of convenience. Many of our elders here live within the confines of low income and mobility challenges. Going out to shop in the community is a challenge that us younger and more mobile people cannot even imagine. The simple fact that the mobile market bus shows up every week and parks within literal feet of our front door has made all the difference for our residents. This kind of accessibility has made for less stress, less risk of falls or encounters of any other kind of dangers. These dangers present themselves from time to time, and it's opened up more opportunities for us for a life of ease and happiness with everyone that they deserve this. Less stress breeds more opportunity to thrive, and I see the impact of that partnership every day. As you can see, also another quote here from a program participant, the mobile market helps me with freedom, so I don't have to wait for someone to go shopping with me. Next, I want to talk a little about our Big River Farms program. At Big River Farms, we are building capacity for farmers and following the farmer's lead on what and how that looks. We provide access to land, education, and market opportunities for up to 16 teams of farmers and producers who will grow the food that we need for the future. Farm to school contracts are a great wholesale market opportunity for farmers where they can create steady revenue for the growing season. This year, a group of farmers, they decided they had an interest in working with the Minneapolis Public Schools. Minneapolis Public School meals are incorporating organic ingredients into their menu, grown by local farmers like Mario Alvarez, that you see on our screen here. Mario brings organic farming skills from growing coffee beans in Guatemala to a very different Minnesota climate. Mario is one of several farmers at Big River Farms, which is a program at the food group. He grew 2,500 pounds of food like watermelon, green beans, zucchini, and peppers for school meals for this school year. I also want to talk about our rooting, our response, and community voice. Community voice is very important for us here. As you can see on our screen here, a quote from one of our food shelf participants, "What a blessing to be able to access food." All of our responses to solutions are rooted in community voice, and that's one of our values. In the fall of 2022, we collaborated with Imagine Deliver, and we did that to learn skills for community engagement, and we will continue to weave our programming in the future in this training that we received from Imagine Deliver. We talked to hundreds of TCMM shoppers, food shelf visitors, farmers, and we engaged them through surveys, interviews, conversations, and focus groups. They shared their ideas on how to build a more equitable food system together. Through this dialogue with community, this will guide our path to a more sustainable future. I'm going to turn it back over to Sophia now. Thank you.
Thanks, David, so much. So as David talked about, community voice is a central strategy in how we determine what is going to happen next for the food group and how we are going to create sustainable solutions, right, in the face of these kind of what can feel like unsustainable trends, right, in need and what we're seeing in the community. And ecosystem. And so whether that is the partnership of our food shelves and meal programs, the partnerships of policy leaders, the partnerships of volunteers, donors, other community supporters, those partnerships are going to be key, in addition to the community who's being very clear on how they want us to show up. So one of the main things that we're seeing and that we are really excited to celebrate in the face of again, the great need that we're seeing is there have been some really significant wins in the public policy space that are going to be critical to changing the context of how people access food. And so the food group is a member of different coalitions, but these have been led by a lot of different partners, some of whom are on the call. So wanting to call out universal school meals, that campaign was really led by Hunger Solutions and many other partners. But making sure that all kids get access to lunch and breakfast at school, that takes a huge amount of pressure off of the emergency food system. And that is really a new policy that is just going into effect this school year. So we aren't yet seeing kind of the impacts of that, but we are confident that that's going to be a really important piece of getting more nutrition and more food security to families with kids. Legal Services Advocacy Project and many others did a lot of work on creating a child income tax credit here in Minnesota. We saw at the federal level during the kind of outgrowth of COVID relief programs that had a tremendous impact on keeping families out of poverty. And so we're very hopeful that that too will change the context for many folks who are needing to rely on services right now. Um, and then we have some colleagues from the Department of Human Services in Minnesota here on the call as well. And they, along with the governor's office, released additional funding for both food shelves and food banks from the state to get food out as quickly as possible. And so all of those things are really kind of part of this patchwork of solutions that we're going to need to meet the demand. And so again, you know, as David talked about, the food group is firmly rooted in the belief that it's not going to be one way that we can solve this problem, that food is complicated, it's also interrelated. Our food system relies on farmers. It relies on having local food that is consistent, that's reliable. And when we can support local farmers through our purchasing, it's another way to support the local economy. We also know that we're going to continue to support our hunger relief partners. I see there was a question in the chat around just kind of where were the bulk of our meals distributed. And the bulk of those meals are distributed through our network of hunger relief partners and those 7 million visits that are happening to food shelves across the state. So we're going to continue to do everything we can creatively to get high quality local foods into that system and make sure that dignity, right, and the dignity of the experience is a really central value for us. And then we know that there's a retail aspect to this whole landscape, and that folks who are going to food shelves or relying on other services for free food are also purchasing food regularly. And so for us, having our affordable grocery programs, expanding their reach and impact, making sure that we are being really responsive to what we carry for inventory in both of those programs is ever changing and ever responsive. And so for all of that, right, all of that is grounded on this idea that we are going to do everything we can with all of your support to get food out for today, but then continue supporting the changes that we know we need for tomorrow to make this more sustainable. So all of that leads into some strategic goals that we've created for the next kind of 3 years to guide our work. David mentioned our extensive community engagement project that we engaged in this past year with farmers, with shoppers of our retail programs, with food shelf participants. And that really shaped kind of how we're thinking about our work moving forward. So directly from folks where we heard that it's really important that we continue to engage actively in policy and advocacy and these broader systems changes within the food system, that we're going to continue to deepen and diversify our partnerships to advance food justice, and that community voice is going to continue to be central to informing what we do next and how we do what we do. So although it continues to feel daunting sometimes to meet the needs and to show up in the way that we're all called to do, I think I remain continually amazed with the ability that our community has to show up at these moments where we're just simply not sure how we're going to keep up. You know, whether that is we're putting together our plan for this coming year, and we know that there's more free food need for our food shelf partners than we maybe can put together in our initial budget. And then we get a call from the state that there's additional funding coming in. And so we're able to layer that back in and prioritize culturally connected foods or local foods or some of those things that can be more expensive, but are so needed and so requested. And so I just continue to be reminded that together we can do this, that food is one of those problems that is solvable, that our food system, sometimes people say it's broken. It was actually built intentionally, and we can rebuild it together. And I'm just so grateful for all of you on the call who are helping us do that in different ways. And I am really hopeful that we're going to continue to make progress together. So with that, I am going to open it up to some questions. Folks can definitely chat questions in the chat, or if you'd rather come off mute or raise your hand, that is just fine too. I see a question in the chat about the um, food bank funding that was recently announced by the state. And so that is still kind of in the process of getting work plans together and having that come out. But all of that funding is designated for food and transportation. So that will all translate to additional food support for our food shelves and meal programs. And happy to chat with anyone on the call in more detail offline about some of our specific strategies on what that will look like. But for the food group, there will be some funding from that pool that we'll use to continue to support transportation to our tribal partners. We've developed partnerships throughout the state with tribes, making sure we're getting indigenous foods to those partners. And then also it will be food available for free to our network of partners. Okay, and then I see another question around food waste. And that is a great question. Food waste is certainly an issue in our food system. It happens at a lot of different places along the system. One of the things David mentioned in his update was our gleaning program. So we really are excited and committed to use our volunteer resources to make sure that food that is left unharvested in farm fields can be rescued and reclaimed. One of the things that we hear a lot from farmers is that labor is so expensive to harvest product. And if you don't have a market for that product, paying to harvest it simply doesn't make sense. And yet the food is top quality. So the other thing we hear about our gleaned produce from our food shelf partners is that it lasts because it's straight from the field. And so we want to continue to really focus our efforts on reclaiming local produce whenever we can as a food waste reduction strategy. And know a lot of folks on this call are doing other things related to food waste as well. I see a question around, do we partner with Too Good to Go? I don't know Too Good to Go, so I'm going to for sure look them up. But Terry, if you have any ideas of what that could look like, definitely reach out and let us know. We're always looking for new partners and new ways to do this. Again, knowing that food is such an ecosystem and it takes a lot of different folks with a lot of different expertise coming together. And the great thing about Minnesota is there are so many fantastic organizations that we don't know them all. So any connections that folks have are more than welcome. I see a question in the chat around a new goal that partners at Second Harvest have around reducing hunger. And, you know, at this point, I've heard of that too. And I think that's like fantastic that we're all we change them is complicated. And it's not, oh, my screen froze. Can people see me now? Better? Okay.
You're back. You just went in and out for a minute.
It's not a Zoom presentation without a screen freeze, right? So I was just saying, you know, I think it's all about trying in new creative partnership ways how we can change these underlying trends. And I don't think there's one answer. And I certainly know that it won't be one organization in any way doing this. It's going to take everybody being creative and really reaching out to lots and lots of different partners. So that would be my take on that. But happy to keep talking and certainly happy to be a collaborative partnership in those spaces. I know we're wrapping up toward the end of our time. Any last questions before I turn it over to Emily? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Emily Eddy White, our Director of Advancement and Culture, and she will close us out.
Thanks, Sophia. Can we, advance the slide? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning and spending this half hour with us. We really appreciate your time during such a busy time of year. So thank you for your care and support. And we have so many different types of partners on, so thank you. from program and community partners to donors and volunteers. Thank you. It means a lot to be all here gathered together. And thanks specifically Sophia, David, Laura, Kathy, and the team for putting this together. But as we close out, there's lots of ways to get involved. We so appreciate all of your support. It's a collective and collaborative effort to fight hunger and nourish the community. And this work is truly powered by community support and partnership. Volunteer, donate. Right now we have a match from Ameriprise, so you can double your impact, and we'll have other matches through year end. So thank you for considering giving a generous gift, significant gift, and meaningful to you. Or if you've already given, thank you. We also do virtual cash drives, which are great for groups. Buy from our farmers. David spoke about Big River Farms. Many of our farmers have different markets in the community. Support local farmers, support our events like this, and tune in, follow us on social, and check out our website as well, and advocate, use your voice. Our voices are powerful for community change. So thank you again. Happy holiday season. Thanks for your care and support, and enjoy this unusually warm December day. We were just talking about a year ago when we did this, there was a snowstorm. So I guess you never know. I guess we can appreciate it. And I know it's also concerning, but appreciate the 40-degree weather today. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to connecting again soon.